Welcome to Madman No Spoiler early review of Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon. Played it for around 20 hours so far and explored most of the southern part of the map. Review key was provided by the publisher, but that doesn't affect my opinion of the game in any way. Full review coming after finishing the game. Fall of Avalon is a first-person RPG set on the fantasy island of Avalon with King Arthur as one of the main characters. Land is in shambles, Arthur is long dead, weirdness is back with all the accompanying monstrosities, bandits rule the roads, keepers that work with Camelot are losing their strength. It's a shit show, alright, you round table musical chair playing bastards. Won't comment on the story as I haven't progressed it that much, did only a few main story related quests. Already there was an interesting clash between what lore would suggest and what a mysterious character that saved us is saying about Arthur and Camelot. This sets up probably a couple ending choices already. Game starts in Island Asylum where red priests are torturing people, investigating weirdness and praying maybe at times, though these didn't look like praying priests, more like praying mantises. Already interesting, although very familiar intro. More interesting to me than the story itself, considering that I didn't advance it, is the lore of Avalon, some side quests and NPCs that are all over the place writing wise. Writing is goofy as heck at times, philosophical, very relatable too, and I love it. Exploring one of the caves, I've stumbled upon a local legend in hiding, a mysterious thief that steals the dumbest stuff she can, like one sock, spoon, or any of the irrelevant stuff that would just annoy the victim of these heinous crimes. Gotta admit, that got me laughing. Or the situation where developers are clearly taking a jab at the classic quest writing from MMORPGs and early RPGs. Quest requires finding a shipwreck. NPC tells us we need to check the log from that shipwreck which is at the museum. Upon talking to the curator, examining the log and finding nothing of use, I ended up asking the curator about the possible location of the ship due to no more leads. He says to me, well, why didn't you ask that in the first place? Of course I know where the shipwreck is. I was stunned a bit because I did not expect that. It's not only jokes though. Avalon is a dark world with tons of mysterious things and dangers around every corner. People cope with it in their own way, which leads to quite a few philosophical outlooks that I really like a lot because they make sense and can be applied in today's world. This all comes from the experiences living in Avalon, dealing with the horrors, losing loved ones, red priests, Camelot's lack of power. Almost every side quest I was a part of drew me in somehow. Either it was an NPC with a secret, writing, or the dungeon explored. There's always something that is going to keep the player interested, which says a lot about the developers and their brilliant understanding of the first-person RPG genre. Island of Avalon is well constructed. It's not big, but it's full of stuff around every corner. There are very few empty meadows, mountains, roads. Always something either lurks close by that is going to attack, or there's a location that can be explored. Every dungeon type location I've explored so far has been unique in many ways. Enemy types, layout, sometimes quests connected to it, unique rewards, hidden NPCs. There's also a nice variety of dungeon sizes which makes it unpredictable. Tainted Grail in 20 hours of playing the game has never missed a beat when it comes to locations and exploration. There's a lot of details also on the world map and in dungeons that raise questions and make the world more interesting. What I particularly like is the freedom of action and movement. We can go wherever we want and do whatever we want. Only thing stopping us from going north immediately are the enemies. Stealing and robbing, easy to do, have at it. Decent thievery system, but it seems that AI is quite basic when it comes to stealing stuff. It's very black and white in a way that if something is stolen successfully, it's never going to become an issue. Interesting mechanic is the day-night cycle. From what I've gathered, NPCs are awake 3/4 of the day, with one part of the night being weird night when NPCs sleep and weird creatures roam. Developers have called it a survival mode of sorts, which makes sense. Great thinking to make NPCs available most of the day and to make one part of each night cycle a different experience. Tainted Grail also has a decent atmosphere that day and night cycles emphasize. Decent music that changes depending on the part of the day helps with the atmosphere too. Dungeon exploration can be atmospheric too due to well-made dungeons and the background details. Overall, so far quests, writing, world lore, exploration are all fantastic. Let's talk about combat. I've played light encumbrance, dual dagger and bow combination most of the time. Don't like mages, so can't comment on mage playstyle. First thing that is really great is the way we can combine both hands. Spell in one, weapon in the other. Shield plus spell. Two same weapons. Two different weapon types. Whatever you like. 4 loadouts as well for quick weapon switching. Combat can be fast at times if playing such playstyle with quick weapon switches, throwing daggers, bombs and such. Defensive actions are block, dash and parry. Offensive actions are push, jump attack, lunge attack and attack with each hand. Can knock down enemies and stun them. Status effects are here too, but with weak visual effects. Simple and effective combat can be tons of fun at times. Not much else to say from the player's perspective. What you see on the screen is what you get. Enemy design plays a huge factor in first-person RPGs, and in Tainted Grail they are solid, especially humans that block, dodge and attack with a variety of moves. Enemy diversity is also solid. Nothing great, but decent variety from what I've seen so far. Monsters and creatures are so-so, depends which one. Bears and some other four-legged creatures are subpar as they look like their models are from 2004 and their animations seem to be from that era, which drags the whole experience down. This is part of a major issue with Tainted Grail. Thankfully it's a subjective thing how much weak presentation when it comes to graphics, enemy sprites in particular, is going to bother the player. I get it, this is a small studio and clearly their budget is limited. For what I've seen so far, what they've done is incredible, but melee combat due to weak animations, sliding on the floor, weak sound effects, clipping through obstacles, bad finishers, fact that I can parry a two-handed heavy axe attack with 2 daggers and similar stuff can be really clunky at times. Melee combat in first-person RPGs is rarely done well. Even the best at it, like Kingdom Come Deliverance, have clunky moments, for example before the Rosette UI pops up, which drags the immersion down. In Tainted Grail at times melee combat can be really rough when it comes to clunkiness, which drags the atmosphere and immersion down. Though as I said, how much that is going to bother the player is very subjective. It's not that bad roughness that would make the combat bad, but it's rough enough to drag it down in my opinion. Enemy AI mid-combat seems capable, especially when it comes to humans. Staying at range, they will chuck stones at the player or switch to ranged weapons if they have any. Evade attacks if you're going mental by slashing everything in front. Block occasionally. AI during the fight is a positive for the game, but it can be really irritating when using stealth a lot or moving fast while covering great distances, because there seems to be a threshold where enemies reset and get back to their position. This also happens frequently with cheat death ability. Combat overall can be rough, but good enough. It does enough to make you want to do it over and over again, but rough enemy sprites with all the other things mentioned above do drag it down. Depends on the enemy, if the fight is on a slope, if you're playing more ranged or melee. Last big thing to mention is the character progression. So far it seems great. There's a lot of skill trees under each attribute that define playstyles. Mostly passive stuff, but crucial in making the build work. We'll see what is the max level and how many of the skill trees we can complete at the same time on a high level character, though from what I've seen so far I'd assume not many. Perks are locked if that particular skill isn't high enough. Skills increase with use. For example, using a dagger is going to increase one-handed skill. Jumping increases agility. Athletics increases movement speed and such. Attributes are the main requirement for some quest options, weapons and accessories. Oh, and thanks to developers for doing a simple attack and defense value system. 1 armor point means 1% damage reduction. That's how you do things transparently while also making sense. Usually in RPGs there can be overly convoluted damage and armor defense numbers where you need advanced math degree for something that can be made simpler. In Tainted Grail this simpler method works rather well. Crafting is important and done really well, simple and effective, no time wasting at all, perfect. We can craft new items, cook fish, decrease weight of the gear, upgrade weapons, insert relics, great stuff that can help improve the build significantly. Couple more negative things to mention before giving a final early review verdict. Audio work isn't the best, there's a weird volume discrepancy between each audio aspect. Sound effects are weak, voiceovers are solid. Needs better audio work, especially with sound effects to increase immersion and atmosphere. Graphically, game is decent when static, but subpar when moving. I think that's the best way to describe it. Rough environmental textures don't bother as much as the rough enemy sprites because locations have lots of interesting background details that make up for at times rough surface textures. Visual effects are weak. Framerate is alright, but it can slow down at times. I've played with no upscaling and it worked alright most of the time with view distance at 70%. Couple bugs that prevented finishing a few quests, but that might be patched for the release date. Devs are aware of it. Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon, in my 20-hour experience, is a well-made first-person RPG with good writing, interesting NPCs, quests that can pull the players in from many sides, great rewarding exploration, interesting world, well-done dungeons, great character progression. It's remarkable how this studio has managed to capture what proper fantasy first-person RPG should be like. Only really negative thing is the subjective one, which is connected to how much at times rough presentation is going to affect the enjoyment. For me, first-person games benefit the most from high graphical fidelity, and lose the most with weak presentation. Rarely something comes in modern times like System Shock Remake that can make old graphics appealing. If the presentation side of things doesn't matter much to you, Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon is a must-play, simple as that. To be honest, you'd have to put presentation as the most important factor when it comes to what you're looking for in a game to skip Tainted Grail if you play RPGs regularly. It just has so much to offer. As a primarily melee player, rough combat presentation does drag the combat down for me, but not to the extent of not wanting to participate in it anymore. It's still appealing to a degree, but that might be just me. It's a subjective thing in the end how much presentation stuff affects the player's enjoyment. Overall, Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon surprised me positively with how well thought out it is. At times it can be too basic with lack of weapon damage type variety, the way stealth works and a couple more things, but it's so well implemented in a simple and effective way that it fits the overall game. I really enjoy playing it and can't wait to see where the story, side quests and exploration takes me. That's it for the early review. Full review coming after the game is finished. Check out the description for Patreon subscribes or merch if you're interested in that sort of stuff, and thanks for watching.